All right. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are, of course. My name is Holly Reynolds, and I am one of the senior product designers here on the plan team at GitLab. And today I'm going to be talking about some of our MVC research and discovery work surrounding requirements documentation. So when considering the problem, we can start by saying that requirements are all about communication with teams and stakeholders. Users in regulated industries often require a way to manage these requirements. And additionally, users in non-regulated industries often desire a way to assess completeness and correctness through testing, which would often lend itself to, again, documenting requirements. Requirements are defined in this case as artifacts which describe the specific behavior of a product. So from a process perspective, I evaluated the issue and came up with a list of initial questions that I wanted for us to understand. One was, what exactly is a requirement? How does it differ from industry to industry and organization to organization? What are our existing and potential users currently using for requirement documentation, and what's both working and not working for them in those cases? Conducted a high-level feature competitive analysis of these tools, which included JAMA, IBM's Doors, and Confluence, to name a few. Even took a look at Excel because some of our users are still using it for importing and exporting requirement data for use between those tools. So I felt that was worth a look as well. We had some internal discussions with sales reps working with both existing and potential customers who have expressed a need for requirements management, and worked heavily really throughout this entire process, but in particular on this aspect with Catherine and Mark, who's the PM and the researcher, to conduct user interviews for both regulated and non-regulated industries to gain deeper insight of the problem space and what opportunities we might have there. So currently our customers and potential customers are having to use multiple tools to manage a single process. And this is really cumbersome and tedious. This feature will allow our users to more clearly define their goals and objectives within the GitLab platform. And this leads to faster iteration and higher quality products. Once we can link tests and code to requirements, it will allow for very easy verification, which many industries spend more than half of their time having to deal with. So one of our customers stated that they are required to show the connections between a change or an issue and its formal requirements, the implementation and review of that change, or in this case, the merge request, and the precise test cases that verify the correct implementation of the requirements. And another stated that they need to understand when a problem occurs, look back at the history of planning and build, and be able to trace to the source of the specific problem. So both of these comments speak to a traceability aspect or concept that many of our customers have expressed is really critical for this feature to provide value. So not having this feature, unfortunately, has actually cost us deals in the past. So we have a high level of confidence in the need for it. We are already a highly sought after configuration management product, of course, which will allow deep integration and tracing between requirements and source, tests, designs, and information. Currently, no one else can boast this level of integration, so it is our belief that we will provide, or that this will provide our main opportunity, which is to make GitLab more competitive. Not only does this impact new potential customers, but existing customers looking to broaden GitLab adoption within their organization. And we will know this feature is successful when we can see a percentage of our target customers storing their requirements in GitLab over an outside tool. So if we look at the jobs to be done, we are focused primarily on the PM in a regulated industry who needs a way of importing customer specifications and ensuring that design, code, and testing provide necessary coverage through traceability. And then we have the security analyst who needs the ability to define specific security requirements which apply to a product, and to be able to quickly see what tests are in place in order to show compliance. So our initial MVC proposal includes the ability to simply create a project level requirement description and quickly and easily a list of requirements under that. The ability to edit and archive those requirements. So editing a requirement will require a merge request, as it should be an artifact that lives within the repo so that we can eventually tie it to the other artifacts within the product, such as test cases, as well as to provide the ability for requirements to be baselined. So many of our users will baseline requirements and then continue working on them after passing the baseline through to the engineering team to actually implement. And when they release, they'll release the code against a baseline version of those requirements. The ability to raise concerns with documentation. This needs more discovery than we have currently at this moment, but potentially the UI or functionality could be similar to commenting initially. And we'll be targeting ultimate customers only with this initially. So I'm going to exit out of the Google slide for just a moment and pull up the wireframes. And this is using Whimsical. Hopefully I didn't lose you all there. Sometimes Zoom gets a little weird with that. So if we look at this initial screen, we are proposing initially placing this within the projects menu on the left. And again, this is MVC. We haven't yet done prototype testing, so some of this could change. But in this case, actually, if I start down here, we're looking at a potential list view of these requirements, very similar to our current list view for issues and epics, with the ability to start a new requirement. In that case, the user would be prompted to enter in a description. So this would be kind of a WYSIWYG interface potentially, and it would include things like a title and a description to start to kind of define what that group of project requirements will look like. Once submitting that, there could potentially be a view which has that information as well as the ability to then start to create those actual requirements under that description. So we kind of initially see this as being potentially like the tree view that we have in the product currently, with the ability to quickly add an item, deleting, soft delete in this case, or archiving an item if need be. Each of these would have their own unique ID as well. And here's that option to raise an issue, which again would just be really if someone has a concern potentially about something that's occurring in that document. They can go in and edit the information, of course, as well, enter in a new requirement description or URL. I'm going to kind of just quickly scroll on down. So if they enter that information here and click add, then they would have the ability to commit those changes, because again, they would need to have that sort of merge request functionality so that we can prepare for the future traceability functions as well. So just going back to future vision for this, we expect to offer the traceability again between requirements. That would include code, design, and unit test files. Again, this is one of the most crucial factors for this feature we've heard from our users in order to really get value. The ability to see the impact of a change to a document in the feature, system, or product as a whole through these connections. Templating requirements to potentially speed up and simplify that initial description creation. The ability to import requirements from other applications and convert them to traceable work within GitLab. That would likely be a CSV format from what we've seen so far. Being able to see a hierarchical tree representation of the various requirements in the system and their affiliated code and test files, and the ability to do that baselining that I had mentioned earlier. And from a testing and research perspective, our next steps are that we plan to conduct a minimum of 3 to 5 prototype testing sessions with users in both regulated and non-regulated industries, where we hope to validate the proposed MVC solution and gain deeper understanding of those traceability needs, since that's going to be our next big focus. And that's it for me. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Okay, I'm not sure if that